The collision happened so fast that Adrian Grant barely had time to register the woman stumbling before his construction. Worn hands shot out to catch the avalanche of groceries tumbling from her torn paper bag. "Whoa, I got you," he said, his voice steady despite the awkward juggling act as oranges, a loaf of bread, and several cans threatened to escape his grip. The woman, dressed in an elegant charcoal business suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent, looked mortified as she clutched the remnants of the bag to her chest. "Oh my goodness, thank you so much," she breathed, her green eyes wide with embarrassment. Her auburn hair had come loose from its professional bun, a few strands framing her face in a way that made Adrian's breath catch for just a moment. "I cannot believe I just did that in the middle of the sidewalk." "These cheap bags never hold up," Adrian said, quickly recovering his composure as he helped gather the remaining items. "You need another bag or something to carry all this." Before she could answer, a sleek black Mercedes pulled up to the curb beside them. The rear window rolled down, revealing a distinguished older man in an expensive suit, his silver hair perfectly styled. His sharp blue eyes took in the scene with obvious interest. "Miss Olivia Kennedy," the man said, his tone professional but curious. "I apologize for being early to our meeting." "I can see you are occupied." Olivia Kennedy straightened, her professional mask sliding into place despite the groceries still cradled in her arms and the ones Adrian was holding. "Mr. Harrison, I am so sorry. I just had a small mishap with my groceries. Give me one moment to sort this out." "Take your time," the man said, but his attention had shifted to Adrian. There was something assessing in his gaze, something that made Adrian feel uncomfortably scrutinized. He was used to being invisible to people in expensive cars. "Here, let me help you get these into the car," Adrian offered, already moving toward the Mercedes. "Oh no, I cannot impose," Olivia protested. "You have already done so much." "It is no trouble," Adrian insisted, his practical nature taking over. "Besides, you are going to drop them again if you try to open that door yourself." A small smile tugged at Olivia's lips as she conceded, walking to the Mercedes with Adrian following. The man inside, this Mr. Harrison, had gotten out and opened the trunk with an amused expression. "A gentleman," Mr. Harrison observed, watching Adrian carefully place the groceries inside. "You do not see that every day," Adrian shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "Just common sense." He turned to Olivia, noticing for the first time the small cut on her palm where she had grabbed the broken bag. "You are bleeding." Olivia glanced down, seeming surprised. "It is nothing, just a scratch." "You should clean that," Adrian said, pulling a clean handkerchief from his pocket. It was one of the few his late wife had embroidered for him, kept pristine despite his rough work. He hesitated only a second before offering it to her. "Here." Olivia looked at the handkerchief, then at Adrian's face, something shifting in her expression. "I cannot take this. It looks important." "It is just clothes," Adrian lied, though his heart tightened. "You need it more than I do right now." She took it gently, wrapping it around her palm. "Thank you. Really, you have been incredibly kind." She paused, seemed to want to say more, but Mr. Harrison cleared his throat softly. "Miss Kennedy, we should discuss your presentation before the board meeting." "Right, yes," Olivia said, suddenly businesslike again. She looked at Adrian one more time. "I am Olivia, by the way, Olivia Kennedy." "Adrian Grant," he replied, shoving his hands in his pockets. "Good luck with your meeting." As the Mercedes pulled away, Adrian stood on the sidewalk for a moment longer than necessary, watching it disappear into the downtown traffic. Then he checked his watch and cursed softly. He was supposed to pick up his daughter Lily from school in 20 minutes, and he still needed to get across town. The construction site where Adrian worked was 30 minutes in the opposite direction, which meant he would have to explain to his supervisor tomorrow why he had left early again. But Lily came first. She always came first. Ever since her mother, Emily, had died 3 years ago from cancer, it had been just the two of them against the world, and he would move mountains to make sure his little girl never felt alone. He jogged to the bus stop, making it just as the crosstown bus pulled up. The ride was long enough for him to close his eyes and lean his head against the window, letting the exhaustion of a 10-hour shift on the construction site seep into his bones. At 32, he should not have felt this tired, but juggling single parenthood with physical labor had a way of aging a man. The elementary school was already releasing students when Adrian arrived, slightly out of breath from his sprint from the bus stop. He spotted Lily immediately, her blonde pigtails bouncing as she chatted with another girl. When she saw him, her whole face lit up, and just like that, every ounce of exhaustion vanished. "Daddy," she called, running over with her backpack bouncing against her 7-year-old frame. "Hey, princess," Adrian said, catching her in a hug. "How was school? We learned about fractions today, and Miss Roberts said I did really good on my reading assignment," Lily reported proudly as they started walking. "Can we get ice cream?" Adrian thought about his wallet, where exactly $43 sat waiting to last them until Friday's paycheck. "How about we make Sundays at home instead? We still have that ice cream in the freezer and some chocolate syrup." Lily's face fell for just a second before she rallied, her natural optimism shining through. "Okay, can I add sprinkles?" "All the sprinkles you want," Adrian promised, taking her small hand in his larger, calloused one. Their apartment was a modest 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor of an old building, but Adrian kept it clean and filled with as much warmth as he could manage. Pictures of Emily still hung on the walls, because Lily needed to remember her mother. And honestly, Adrian needed the reminder too of what he was working so hard to preserve, the family they had started together. While Lily changed out of her school uniform and started her homework at the kitchen table, Adrian began preparing dinner. Spaghetti again, because it was cheap and filling, and Lily actually liked it. He had gotten good at making it stretch by adding vegetables, telling Lily they made her strong like a superhero. "Daddy, do you ever get lonely?" Lily asked suddenly, her pencil paused over her math worksheet. The question caught Adrian off guard. "What makes you ask that, sweetheart?" Lily shrugged, not meeting his eyes. "Sarah's mom got remarried last year, and Sarah says she likes having a new dad. I was just wondering if you would ever want to get married again." Adrian's hands stilled over the pot of boiling water. This was not the first time Lily had brought up the subject, but it never got easier. "Would it bother you if I did?" "I do not know," Lily said honestly. "I miss Mommy, but I also do not want you to be sad all the time." "I am not sad all the time," Adrian said, coming to sit beside her at the table. "I have you, do not I? That makes me pretty happy." Lily smiled, but there was something wise beyond her years in her eyes. "But you could be even happier, right?" "That is what Miss Roberts says, that happiness can grow if you let it." Adrian pulled his daughter into a hug, overwhelmed by her sweetness and her maturity. "You are too smart for 7, you know that?" "I am almost 8, Lily corrected him, as she always did. The next morning found Adrian back at the construction site, his muscles protesting every movement as he hauled steel beams and operated heavy machinery. His supervisor, a gruff man named Joe who had surprisingly never given him too much grief about his family situation, called him over during the mid-morning break. "Grant, you left early yesterday," Joe said, his expression stern. "I know, I am sorry," Adrian started. "My daughter's school lets out at 3:30, and the bus was running late the day before, and I could not leave her waiting again." Joe held up a hand. "I am not firing you. You are one of my best guys, and I know your situation, but I need to be able to count on you for full shifts." "Have you looked into after-school programs?" Adrian had, but most cost money he did not have. The free ones had waiting lists 6 months long. "I am working on it." "Work faster," Joe said, but not unkindly. "I can give you a little flexibility, but not if it becomes a regular thing. Understand?" "Yes, sir. Thank you." As Adrian returned to his work, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out during his lunch break to find an unknown number had sent a text message. This is Olivia Kennedy from yesterday. I got your number from the business card that fell out of your handkerchief. I would like to return it to you properly cleaned and perhaps buy you lunch as a thank you. Would you be available Saturday? Adrian stared at the message for a long moment, his heart doing something complicated in his chest. He should say no. Women like Olivia Kennedy did not have lunch with men like him, men with dirt under their fingernails and holes in their socks. But something about the way she had looked at him yesterday, really looked at him, made him type out a response. Saturday works. I will have my daughter with me, though. Hope that is okay. The response came quickly. Even better. I will make it a family-friendly place. How does noon at Rosie's Diner on 5th Street sound? Adrian knew Rosie's. It was the kind of place with reasonable prices and good food, not trying to be fancy. The fact that she had chosen somewhere like that instead of some expensive restaurant made him smile. Sounds perfect. When Saturday arrived, Adrian spent probably too much time making sure both he and Lily looked presentable. He had exactly 2 nice shirts to his name, both button-downs that Emily had bought him for church. He chose the blue one, pairing it with his least worn jeans. Lily wore her favorite yellow dress with white flowers, the one that made her look like sunshine. Is the lady from your work? Lily asked as they rode the bus downtown. No, just someone I helped the other day, Adrian explained. She wanted to say thank you by taking us to lunch. Is she pretty? Lily asked with the directness only a child could manage. Adrian felt his face warm. I guess so. I did not really notice. Lily giggled, seeing right through him. You are blushing, Daddy. They arrived at Rosie's 5 minutes early, but Olivia was already there, seated in a booth by the window. She had traded her business suit for dark jeans and a soft green sweater that made her eyes even more striking. When she saw them enter, she stood, and Adrian noticed she seemed almost as nervous as he felt. Adrian, hi, Olivia said, her smile warm and genuine. Then she looked down at Lily. And you must be Lily. Your dad told me about you. Lily, usually shy with strangers, studied Olivia with serious eyes before apparently deciding she passed some internal test. He said you had a grocery accident. Olivia laughed, the sound bright and unguarded. I certainly did. Your dad saved me from making an even bigger mess. Please sit down. The lunch started awkwardly, as these things do, with too polite conversation about the weather and the menu. But then Lily asked Olivia what she did for work, and suddenly the conversation found its rhythm. I work in corporate development, Olivia explained. Which basically means I help companies figure out how to work together better and grow. It is not as exciting as it sounds. It sounds pretty boring, Lily said honestly, and Adrian nearly choked on his water. Lily, he admonished, but Olivia was laughing again. You are absolutely right. It can be incredibly boring, Olivia agreed, her eyes twinkling. There are a lot of meetings and spreadsheets. What do you want to be when you grow up? A veterinarian, Lily announced. Because I love animals, but Daddy says we cannot have a dog in our apartment, so I figure I will just work with lots of animals instead. That is very logical thinking, Olivia said, genuinely impressed. Do you have a favorite animal? As Lily launched into an enthusiastic explanation about red pandas, Adrian found himself relaxing. He watched Olivia engage with his daughter, asking real questions and listening to the answers like they mattered. She was not patronizing or fake, and Lily responded to that authenticity with her usual open-hearted enthusiasm. Your daughter is remarkable, Olivia said later, when Lily had excused herself to use the restroom. She is the best thing in my life, Adrian said simply. I know I am biased, but she really is special. It is obvious how much you love her, Olivia said, her voice soft. The way you look at her, it is beautiful. My father was never that present when I was growing up. He was always working, building his company. I always envied kids who had parents who really saw them. Your father, Adrian said, remembering. Would that be the Mr. Harrison from the other day? Olivia looked surprised. No, actually, Walter Harrison is the CEO of the company I am trying to get hired by. It was a final interview situation. She paused, then smiled. I got the job, actually. They called me that evening. Congratulations, Adrian said, meaning it. That is amazing. Thank you. It is a big step for me career-wise. But if I am honest, I have been having some doubts lately about whether climbing the corporate ladder is really what I want. She looked embarrassed at the admission. Sorry, you probably do not want to hear about my existential career crisis. Why not? Adrian asked. I told you about my construction job and how I am struggling to balance work and being there for Lily. Seems only fair you get to talk about your stuff too. Olivia met his eyes, and something passed between them, a connection forming. This is probably going to sound incredibly privileged and out of touch, but sometimes I feel like I am working so hard to achieve things that do not actually matter. Building wealth, gaining status, none of it feels meaningful. And then I see someone like you, who dropped everything to make sure some stranger's groceries did not roll into traffic, who clearly puts his daughter above everything else, and I think maybe I have been measuring success all wrong. Before Adrian could respond, Lily returned, sliding back into the booth with innocent obliviousness to the moment she had interrupted. But as lunch continued and they shared a dessert, Adrian found himself stealing glances at Olivia, seeing beyond the polished exterior to someone who was genuinely kind and surprisingly vulnerable. When it was time to leave, Olivia walked them out to the bus stop. She handed Adrian his handkerchief, now cleaned and pressed, with a small gift bag. I got something for Lily too, I hope that is okay. Inside was a plush red panda, soft and perfectly sized for a 7-year-old to hug. Lily's eyes went wide with delight, and she immediately clutched it to her chest. Thank you, Miss Olivia. You are very welcome, Olivia said, crouching down to Lily's level. Take good care of him. As their bus pulled up, Adrian hesitated. Would you want to do this again sometime? Maybe get coffee or something, without the thank you for the groceries excuse. Olivia's smile could have lit up the whole city. I would really like that. Let me give you my number. My actual number, not the one I use for work. Over the next few weeks, Adrian and Olivia fell into an easy pattern of texting throughout the day. She would send him pictures of particularly boring meetings with captions that made him laugh out loud, earning strange looks from his coworkers. He would send her photos of Lily's latest drawings or funny things she said. It was comfortable and exciting at the same time, something Adrian had not felt since the early days with Emily. Their second date was to the zoo, with Lily once again as their chaperone, though Adrian was starting to think of it less as chaperoning and more as sharing this new friendship with the person who mattered most to him. Olivia showed up in sneakers and jeans, her hair in a ponytail, looking more relaxed than he had ever seen her. I have not been to a zoo in probably 15 years, she admitted as they walked through the entrance. I forgot how fun this is. Lily appointed herself tour guide, dragging them from exhibit to exhibit with boundless energy. At the red panda habitat, she pressed her face against the glass with such pure joy that both adults felt their hearts melt. She really loves those guys, Olivia observed, standing close enough to Adrian that their shoulders brushed. Ever since she did a school project on them last year, Adrian said, I think I have heard every red panda fact that exists. Did you know they are not actually related to giant pandas? Lily informed them, right on cue. They are more like raccoons, and they can eat up to 20,000 bamboo leaves in a day. As the afternoon wore on, Adrian noticed how natural Olivia was with Lily. She did not try too hard or treat her like she was fragile. She talked to her like a person, asked her opinions, and genuinely seemed to enjoy her company. For her part, Lily was clearly becoming attached, reaching for Olivia's hand at one point as they walked, a gesture she rarely made with anyone outside family. When they stopped for ice cream, Lily announced she needed to use the bathroom, leaving Adrian and Olivia alone at their table for the first time all day. She is wonderful, Olivia said immediately. I know I keep saying that, but it is true. You are doing an incredible job with her. I am just trying not to mess up too badly, Adrian admitted. Some days I feel like I am barely holding it together. Working full-time, making sure she gets to school and does her homework, cooking meals that are not just cereal and hope. It is a lot. You are allowed to acknowledge that it is hard without diminishing what an amazing father you are, Olivia said gently. She reached across the table, hesitating just a moment before placing her hand over his. I hope you know that. Adrian looked at their hands, hers soft and manicured, his rough and scarred from work. They should not have fit together, but somehow they did. I need to be honest with you about something. Olivia's expression grew concerned. Okay. I like you, Adrian said, forcing himself to meet her eyes. More than I probably should, given that we have only known each other a few weeks. But I have a kid, and I work construction, and I live in a tiny apartment where the heat does not always work in winter. My life is complicated and messy, and I do not have a lot to offer someone like you. Someone like me, Olivia repeated, her voice careful. Someone successful. Put together, someone who probably has a bunch of men in suits trying to take you out to fancy restaurants. Olivia's laugh was unexpected. Adrian, I have not been on a date in over a year because every man I meet through work only sees my job title or my last name. You are the first person in so long who just saw me, who helped me not because of who I might be, but because it was the right thing to do. Do you know how rare that is? Your last name, Adrian asked, confused. Olivia bit her lip. Kennedy, as in Kennedy Technologies. My father is Richard Kennedy. The name meant nothing to Adrian, and his blank expression must have shown it because Olivia laughed again, this time with obvious relief. You really do not know who that is, do you? Should I? My father owns one of the largest tech companies on the East Coast. We are not Bezos-level rich, but comfortable enough that I grew up very privileged. And every person I have dated since college has either been intimidated by that or only interested in that. You are the first person who just treated me like a normal person. Adrian absorbed this information, trying to reconcile the woman sitting across from him with the image of wealth and privilege she was describing. Does that change things? Knowing that I did not know? It changes everything, Olivia said softly. It makes me like you even more. Lily returned then, her arrival announced by the slap of her light-up sneakers on the concrete. She clambered back into her seat and immediately noticed their joined hands on the table. Are you guys going to start dating? She asked bluntly. Adrian felt his face flame. Lily, that is not really an appropriate question. Why not? Lily asked, genuinely confused. You like Miss Olivia and she likes you, I can tell, and I like her too, so it seems like it would work out. Olivia was trying very hard not to laugh, Adrian could tell. What if we said yes? Olivia asked Lily. Would that be okay with you? Lily considered this with the seriousness of a Supreme Court judge. Would you be nice to my daddy? Always, Olivia promised. And you would not try to be my new mom, because I already have a mom, even if she is in heaven. Adrian's throat tightened. They had had this conversation before, about his own mother dating after his father died. Lily had very strong feelings about it. I would never try to replace your mom, Olivia said, her voice gentle but firm. She was special, and she loved you very much. I would just be Olivia, someone who cares about both of you. Lily nodded, satisfied. Then yes, you can date my daddy. Adrian met Olivia's eyes over his daughter's head, seeing his own mix of amusement and tenderness reflected back. Well, he said, I guess that is settled then. Their first official date without Lily was 2 weeks later, a Friday evening when Adrian's neighbor, Mrs. Chen, agreed to watch his daughter. Adrian showed up at Olivia's apartment, nervous in a way he had not been since high school. She lived downtown in a modern building with a doorman, and her apartment was spacious and beautifully decorated, but what struck him most was how it felt lived in. Books everywhere, plants on the windowsills, photos of people who were clearly family and friends. It was a home, not a showpiece. You look beautiful, Adrian said when she opened the door, and she did. A simple blue dress and her hair down around her shoulders, but it was the smile she gave him that really took his breath away. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she teased, straightening his collar in a gesture that felt both intimate and domestic. They went to a small Italian restaurant that Olivia insisted was the best in the city, the kind of place with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. Over pasta and wine, they talked about everything, their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. Adrian learned that Olivia had studied art in college before switching to business to please her father, that she had a younger brother she adored, that she had always wanted children but was terrified she had waited too long. "I am 31, she confessed. "And I feel like I spent my 20s building a career I am not even sure I want. Sometimes I look at my life and wonder where all the time went." 31 is hardly ancient, Adrian said. "You still have time to figure out what you want. Do you want more kids?" Olivia asked, then immediately looked embarrassed. "Sorry, that is probably way too serious a question for a first real date." "I would love more kids," Adrian admitted. "I always imagined Lily would have siblings, but after Emily died, I sort of assumed that ship had sailed." Being a single dad is not exactly the most attractive quality on a dating profile. "I think it is incredibly attractive," Olivia said quietly. "The way you love Lily, the way you prioritize her, it shows what kind of man you are. Any woman would be lucky to build a life with someone like that." The air between them shifted, becoming charged with possibility. Adrian reached across the table, taking her hand. "I have not felt this way about anyone since my wife. It is terrifying and exciting at the same time." "I know exactly what you mean," Olivia said. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to prove this is too good to be true. But maybe it is just good. Maybe we both deserve that." Walking her back to her apartment, Adrian felt like a teenager again, nervous and hopeful and completely out of his depth. At her door, Olivia turned to him, and he saw his own anticipation reflected in her eyes. "I would really like to kiss you," he said, because he had never been good at playing games or being anything other than straightforward. "I was hoping you would say that," Olivia whispered, and then they were kissing and it was perfect. Not desperate or rushed, but deep and sweet, a promise of things to come. When they finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Olivia rested her forehead against his. "This is real, right?" "I am not imagining this. It is very real," Adrian assured her, "and I am not going anywhere." Over the following months, Adrian and Olivia's relationship deepened in ways that surprised them both. She started coming to Lily's school events, sitting beside Adrian at the fall concert and cheering louder than anyone when Lily sang her solo. He met her friends, successful professionals who welcomed him warmly once they got over their initial surprise that Olivia was dating a construction worker. Her brother Jake became a particular ally, confiding that he had never seen his sister so genuinely happy. The relationship was not without its challenges. There were moments when their different backgrounds created friction. Like when Olivia casually suggested a weekend trip to the mountains and seemed confused when Adrian explained he could not afford it. Or when Adrian felt out of place at her company's holiday party, surrounded by people discussing stocks and portfolios while he nursed a beer and tried to follow along. But they worked through it, learning to communicate openly about their differences rather than letting resentment build. Olivia began to understand the constant financial calculations Adrian had to make, the way he mentally tracked every dollar. Adrian began to see that Olivia's wealth did not make her immune to insecurity and loneliness, that she struggled with her own pressures and expectations. 6 months into their relationship, Olivia brought up a topic that had been dancing around the edges of their conversations for weeks. They were at Adrian's apartment, Lily asleep in her room, sitting together on the couch with a movie playing that neither was really watching. "I have been thinking about something," Olivia said, her voice careful, "and I want to talk to you about it, but I am afraid you are going to take it the wrong way." Adrian muted the television, giving her his full attention. Okay, what is it? Your job. I know how much you struggle with the hours, with being there for Lily, and I know how much you worry about money. She took a breath. I want to help. Adrian felt himself stiffen immediately. Olivia, I do not need charity. That is not what this is, she said quickly. Please, just hear me out. I have connections. My new position with Harrison Technologies means I know a lot of project managers and foremen. I could help you find a better job, something with more regular hours and better pay. Or if you wanted to go back to school, get a different kind of certification, I could help with that too. So you want to fix me, Adrian said flatly, make me more acceptable. No, Olivia looked genuinely distressed. Adrian, no, I love you exactly as you are. I am not trying to change you. I am trying to make your life easier because I care about you and Lily. Is it so wrong that I want to help? Adrian stood, pacing the small living room. I have worked construction since I was 19. It is hard work, but it is honest work and I am good at it. I do not need you swooping in like some kind of fairy godmother to save me. I am not trying to save you, Olivia said, her own frustration starting to show. You are one of the strongest people I know, but strength does not mean you have to do everything alone. Why is it so hard for you to accept help? Because I have had to do it alone, Adrian shot back. For 3 years, it has been me and Lily against the world. I cannot afford to depend on anyone else because what happens when they leave? What happens when you decide this working-class life is not as romantic as you thought and you go back to your world? I'm left even worse off than before, and so is Lily. The words hung in the air between them, harsh and revealing. Olivia stood slowly, tears shining in her eyes. Is that really what you think of me? She asked quietly. That I am just slumming it, playing at real life before I get bored and move on. Adrian felt his anger deflate, replaced by something sadder. I do not know, maybe, I do not know how this works, Olivia. You and me, we are from different worlds. At some point that has to matter. It only matters if we let it, Olivia said. I love you, Adrian, I love Lily. This is not a game to me or some kind of charitable project. You are not a project. You are the man I want to build a life with if you will let me. Adrian sat back down heavily, suddenly exhausted. I am scared, he admitted. I am scared of letting you in completely and then losing you. I do not think I could survive that again. Olivia sat beside him, taking his hand. I am scared too. I am scared you will always see me as just a privileged rich girl who does not understand your life. I am scared I will mess things up with Lily, say the wrong thing, overstep. But I am willing to be scared if it means I get to be with you. They sat in silence for a long moment, both processing. Finally, Adrian spoke. I am sorry. You were trying to do something nice and I made it about my pride. And I am sorry for not being more sensitive about how the offer might make you feel, Olivia said. I did not think it through. Maybe we could compromise, Adrian suggested slowly. I do not want you to get me a job or pay for anything directly, but if you hear about opportunities, you could tell me, and I could apply on my own merits. And if I decide I want to take a class or something, maybe we could figure out a way I could pay you back over time. Olivia nodded. I can work with that, as long as you know the offer comes from love, not pity. I know, Adrian said, pulling her close. I am sorry I am so stubborn. I am dating a stubborn man, Olivia said, a smile finally returning to her voice. I should probably get used to it. They kissed, the argument melting away into something deeper, an understanding that love meant working through the hard moments, not running from them. 2 weeks later, Olivia did mention an opportunity, carefully casual as they had dinner together. Harrison Technologies needed a project supervisor for a new building renovation, someone who knew construction, but could also manage teams and timelines. The pay was almost double what Adrian currently made, with regular hours and benefits. Adrian applied, went through 3 rounds of interviews, and got the job on his own merits. When he called Olivia with the news, she screamed so loudly he had to hold the phone away from his ear. I am so proud of you, she exclaimed. I knew you could do it. I could not have done it without you telling me about it, Adrian admitted. Thank you for pushing me. That is what partners do, Olivia said softly. They push each other to be better. The new job transformed Adrian's life in ways he had not anticipated. Suddenly, he could pick Lily up from school every day without stress. He could afford to take her to the movies occasionally, to buy her new clothes when she needed them instead of waiting for sales. The constant financial anxiety that had been his companion for years began to ease. But more than that, the job gave him confidence. He was good at managing people, at solving problems, at seeing the big picture. His crews respected him because he had done their jobs and knew the work intimately. Within 3 months, he was getting compliments from upper management, talk of future advancement. "You are glowing," Olivia observed one evening. They were at her apartment, cooking dinner together while Lily did homework at the counter. "This job is good for you." "It is weird not being exhausted all the time," Adrian admitted, chopping vegetables. "I did not realize how much I was just surviving before instead of actually living." "Now you can do both," Olivia said, kissing his cheek as she passed to check on the pasta. "Miss Olivia, can you help me with this math problem?" Lily called, and Olivia immediately went to her side, looking over the worksheet with serious concentration. Adrian watched them together, his heart full in a way he had not thought possible 3 years ago. Lily adored Olivia, and the feeling was clearly mutual. They had their own jokes and routines, their own relationship that existed separately from his relationship with Olivia. It made him think about the future in concrete ways, about what it might look like to actually blend their lives completely. As if reading his mind, Olivia looked up and caught his gaze, and the smile she gave him was full of promise. A year after they started dating, Adrian decided it was time to meet Olivia's father. She had met his family, his parents who lived upstate, and his sister who had flown in for a visit. They had all loved her, though his mother had pulled him aside to ask if he was sure he knew what he was getting into, dating someone from such a different background. "I love her, Mom," Adrian had said simply. "That is all I need to know." But meeting Richard Kennedy was different. The man was a legend in business circles, self-made and ruthless according to articles Adrian had nervously read online. He had built Kennedy Technologies from nothing, and he had strong opinions about everything, including who his children dated. The dinner was at an expensive steakhouse, the kind of place where Adrian had to borrow a suit jacket from Olivia's brother because he did not own one nice enough. Olivia was a bundle of nerves, which was oddly comforting because it meant she cared what her father thought about their relationship. Richard Kennedy was exactly what Adrian expected, tall, impeccably dressed with sharp eyes that missed nothing. His handshake was firm, assessing. "Mr. Grant," he said, "Olivia has told me a great deal about you. Please call me Adrian, and hopefully she has told you good things." "She tells me you work in construction supervision," Richard said as they sat down, "and that you have a daughter." "Yes, sir. Lily is 7. She is my whole world." Richard's expression softened slightly. "I understand that. I have 2 children of my own. Though I will admit I was not as present as I should have been when they were young. Building a company takes time. I am learning that success and being present do not have to be mutually exclusive," Adrian said carefully. "It is about priorities." "A diplomatic answer," Richard observed. "But I am curious what you think your priorities are." Adrian felt Olivia tense beside him, but he met Richard's gaze steadily. "My daughter comes first, always. After that, being someone she can be proud of. That means working hard, being honest, and treating people with respect." "I care very deeply about your daughter, sir. She makes me want to be better than I am." "And what do you have to offer her?" Richard asked bluntly. "She is accustomed to a certain lifestyle." "Dad," Olivia interjected, her voice tight with embarrassment, "that is inappropriate." "It is a fair question," Adrian said, placing a calming hand on Olivia's knee under the table. "You are right that I cannot offer her the kind of wealth she grew up with. What I can offer is honesty, loyalty, and love. I can offer her a partner who sees her, not her last name or her bank account. I can offer her a life built on something real. Richard studied him for a long moment, then turned to his daughter. You love him. Very much, Olivia said, taking Adrian's hand openly. He is the best man I have ever known. Then I suppose my opinion does not matter much, Richard said, but there was a hint of a smile. Though for what it is worth, I respect someone who speaks plainly. Half the people I do business with cannot manage that. The dinner continued, the tension easing as Richard asked Adrian about his work, actually seeming interested in the answers. By dessert, he was telling stories about the early days of his company when he had worked construction himself to fund his first startup. You remind me of myself at your age, Richard admitted. Stubborn, proud, determined to do everything on your own. Let me give you some advice. Let people help you. I wasted years trying to prove I did not need anyone, and I missed out on a lot because of it. I am working on that, Adrian said, squeezing Olivia's hand. Learning to be part of a team instead of a solo act. When they left the restaurant, Olivia practically vibrated with relief. That went so much better than I thought it would. Your dad is intense, Adrian admitted. But I can see where you get your strength from. He liked you, Olivia said. He would not have told you those stories if he did not. My father does not open up to people easily. Well, I am honored then, Adrian said, pulling her close as they walked to his car. He had finally been able to afford a reliable used sedan, and while it was not fancy, it was his and it did not break down. Though I have to admit, I was sweating through that whole conversation. Olivia laughed, the sound bright in the evening air. You never showed it, you were perfect. As they drove back to Adrian's apartment to relieve Mrs. Chen, who was watching Lily, Adrian felt a sense of rightness settle over him. For so long, his life had felt like a constant struggle, always fighting against circumstances. But now, with Olivia beside him and a career path that excited him, things felt possible in a way they had not in years. Lily was asleep on the couch when they arrived, and Adrian carried her to her bedroom while Olivia thanked Mrs. Chen and saw her out. When he returned, Olivia was looking at the photos on the wall, stopping at one of Emily holding newborn Lily in the hospital. She was beautiful, Olivia said softly. She was, Adrian agreed, coming to stand beside her. I will always love her. She gave me Lily, gave me some of the happiest years of my life. But I am also learning that you can love what you had and still be excited about what comes next. Olivia turned to him, her eyes shining. I love you, Adrian Grant. I love your daughter. I love your stubborn pride. I love how you see the world. I love all of it. I love you too, Adrian said, and kissed her like he meant it because he did. I want a future with you. I want to figure out how to build a life together. I want that too, Olivia whispered against his lips. I want all of it. 6 months later, Adrian started planning the proposal. He knew he wanted it to be special but not ostentatious, meaningful but not over the top. And he knew it had to include Lily, because this was not just about him marrying Olivia. It was about them becoming a family. He talked to Lily first, sitting her down one evening after dinner with the seriousness the conversation deserved. Princess, I want to ask Miss Olivia to marry me, he said, but I need to know how you feel about that. You are the most important person in my life, and I would not do this unless you were okay with it. Lily looked thoughtful, swinging her legs from the kitchen chair. Would Miss Olivia live with us? Eventually, yes. We would probably look for a bigger place, somewhere with more room. And she would be like my stepmom. She would legally be your stepmom, yes, but she would just be Olivia, the same person she is now. She would not try to replace your mom. Lily nodded slowly. I want you to marry her. She makes you smile a lot, and she is nice to me without being fake about it. Plus, she knows a lot about animals, so she can help me with my veterinarian goal. Adrian pulled his daughter into a hug, overwhelmed by her maturity and her generous heart. You are the best kid a dad could ask for, you know that? I know, Lily said matter-of-factly. So when are you going to ask her? Soon, and I want you to help me. They planned it together, Adrian and Lily, scheming in whispers when Olivia was not around. The proposal would happen at the zoo, at the red panda exhibit, because it was special to Lily, and because it was where they had all really started to become a unit. Adrian saved for weeks to buy the ring, a simple diamond on a white gold band. It was not the biggest or flashiest ring, but it was beautiful, and it had been within his means to buy without help, which mattered to him. On the chosen Saturday, they told Olivia they were just going for a normal zoo trip. But Adrian had arranged with the zoo staff for something special. When they arrived at the red panda exhibit, there was a banner that read, "Olivia, will you help us be a family forever?" Olivia stood frozen, reading the banner, then turned to find Adrian down on one knee with Lily beside him, both of them holding the ring box together. "Olivia Kennedy," Adrian said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "You came into our lives when I had stopped believing in second chances. You showed me that love does not have to be a struggle, that partnership means making each other stronger. You have been patient with my pride, gentle with my daughter, and generous with your heart. Lily and I want you to be part of our family officially. Will you marry me?" Tears were streaming down Olivia's face as she dropped to her knees in front of them. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, absolutely yes." Adrian slipped the ring on her finger while Lily threw her arms around both of them, creating a tangle of limbs and laughter and tears. Other zoo visitors began applauding, but Adrian barely noticed, too focused on the woman in his arms and the daughter pressed between them. "I am going to be the best stepmom," Olivia promised Lily, hugging her tight. "We are going to have so much fun together." "Can we get a dog now?" Lily asked immediately, and both adults laughed. "We can definitely discuss getting a dog," Adrian said, "after we figure out where we are all going to live." They spent the rest of the day at the zoo, giddy and making plans and stopping periodically so Olivia could look at her ring in wonder. Adrian felt lighter than he had in years, like a weight had been lifted that he had not realized he was carrying. The wedding planning was a negotiation. Olivia's father wanted to throw them a massive society wedding, while Adrian wanted something small and intimate. They compromised on a medium-sized affair, inviting close friends and family, but keeping it personal and meaningful. "I do not care about impressing people," Olivia told her father firmly. "I care about marrying Adrian and starting our life together. We can do that in a ballroom with 200 guests or in a backyard with 20. The location does not matter." Richard, to his credit, backed down. "You are right, though I reserve the right to give you a wedding present that is perhaps more extravagant than you might choose yourself." The wedding present turned out to be a house. Not a mansion, but a beautiful 4-bedroom home in a good school district with a yard big enough for a dog and a neighborhood pool. Adrian initially wanted to refuse, but Olivia convinced him to see it as an investment in their future, in Lily's stability. "My father wants to do this," she explained. "Not because he thinks we cannot manage on our own, but because he wants to. Let him be generous, Adrian. It makes him happy." So Adrian swallowed his pride and accepted, though he insisted on paying the property taxes and maintenance costs himself. It was a compromise he could live with. The wedding itself was perfect. They got married in a garden in late spring, with Lily as their flower girl in a dress she had picked out herself. Adrian's parents cried. Olivia's brother gave a speech that was both touching and hilarious. And Richard Kennedy surprised everyone by getting visibly emotional when he walked his daughter down the aisle. When Adrian saw Olivia walking toward him in her simple white dress, her face radiant with joy, he felt his own eyes burn with tears. This woman had chosen him, chosen his daughter, chosen the life they could build together over the ease and simplicity of dating within her own social circle. "You look beautiful," he whispered when she reached him. "You look pretty good yourself," she whispered back, her smile brilliant. The vows they had written were personal and honest. Adrian promised to always see her, to support her dreams even when they scared him, to love her through the easy days and the hard ones. Olivia promised to be patient with his stubbornness, to be a good partner to him and a loving presence in Lily's life, to build a family based on honesty and respect. When they kissed as husband and wife, Lily cheered louder than anyone, and the guests laughed with delight. The reception was filled with dancing and good food and speeches from loved ones. Adrian danced with his mother, with his new wife, and most importantly, with his daughter, who stood on his feet like she had when she was tiny and let him spin her around the dance floor. "I am happy, Daddy," Lily said, looking up at him with eyes so much like Emily's. "Mommy would be happy too." "I think you are right, Princess," Adrian said, his heart full. "I think she would be glad we found Olivia." The honeymoon was a weekend trip to the beach, because that was all the time Adrian could take off work, and they did not want to be away from Lily longer than that. But it was perfect. Sleeping in, long walks on the sand, and talking about their future without interruption. "I want to have a baby," Olivia said on their last morning, lying in bed with her head on Adrian's chest. "Not right away, but eventually. I want to give Lily a sibling, and I want to experience that with you." "I want that too," Adrian admitted. "I want to do the whole thing with you, the midnight feedings and the first steps and all of it. I want to build our family together." "How many kids do you think?" Olivia asked, playing with his fingers. "I always imagined 3 or 4, Adrian said, "but I am flexible. However many feels right for us." 3 or 4 sounds perfect," Olivia said, kissing him. "Lily is going to be such a good big sister." Moving into the new house was an adventure. Lily got to pick out paint for her room, choosing a soft purple with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Adrian set up his small workshop in the garage, a space for projects and tinkering. Olivia turned one bedroom into a home office, though she had been talking more and more about potentially shifting her career, maybe starting a nonprofit or consulting part-time. And they got a dog, a rescue golden retriever mix that Lily named Pancake because of his coloring. The dog fit into their family like he had always been there, sleeping on Lily's bed and following Adrian around the house whenever he was home. A year into their marriage, Olivia found out she was pregnant. They told Lily together, watching her face light up with joy. "I am going to teach them everything," Lily declared seriously, "about animals and how to ride a bike and everything." "That is a big responsibility," Adrian said, trying not to smile. "Are you ready for that?" "I have been ready," Lily informed him. "I have been practicing with my friends at school who have younger siblings. I know all about sharing and being patient." The pregnancy was relatively easy, and watching Olivia grow round with their child was one of the most beautiful things Adrian had ever experienced. He went to every appointment, read every book, and generally drove Olivia crazy with his attentiveness. "I love you, but you need to relax," she told him one evening when he was researching the best car seats for the 3rd time. "Women have been having babies for thousands of years. We will figure it out." "I just want everything to be perfect," Adrian said. "It will be perfect because we will be together," Olivia said, taking his hand and placing it on her belly where the baby was kicking. "Feel that? That is our baby, Adrian, our baby. We made that together." Adrian felt tears prick his eyes as he felt the movement under his palm. "I love you so much, both of you." Their son was born on a snowy January morning after 12 hours of labor. Adrian held Olivia's hand through all of it, coaching her breathing and telling her how strong she was, how proud he was of her. When the baby finally arrived, screaming and red-faced and perfect, Adrian cut the cord with shaking hands. "He is beautiful," Olivia sobbed, holding their son against her chest. "Adrian, look at him. We made him." "He has your nose," Adrian observed, unable to look away from this tiny, perfect person. They named him Ethan, and from the moment Lily met him at the hospital, she was smitten. "He is so little," she whispered, carefully touching his tiny hand. "I promise I will protect him always, little brother." Adjusting to life with a newborn was exhausting but joyful. Adrian took 2 weeks off work, and they fell into a routine of feedings and diaper changes and stolen moments of sleep. Olivia was a natural mother, patient and loving even when she was exhausted. Adrian marveled at her strength, at how she made it all look easy even when he knew it was not. "We are doing pretty good at this family thing," Olivia said one night, both of them awake at 3 in the morning with a fussy baby. "We are doing amazing at this family thing," Adrian corrected, kissing her forehead. "Look at us. We are raising good humans. That is no small thing." When Ethan was 6 months old and they were finally sleeping through the night more often than not, Olivia brought up the idea of another baby. "Already?" Adrian asked, amused. "You want to do the newborn stage again so soon?" "I want our kids to be close in age," Olivia said. "And I am not getting any younger. If we want 3 or 4, we should probably not wait too long between them." Adrian could not argue with that logic. 18 months after Ethan was born, Olivia was pregnant again, this time with a girl they named Sophie. Lily, now 11, was an incredible big sister to both her younger siblings, mature and responsible beyond her years. "You are so lucky," she told Adrian one evening, watching him give Sophie a bottle while Ethan played with blocks at their feet. "You have 3 kids who love you. That is like winning the lottery." "I am the luckiest man alive," Adrian agreed. "Though I could not have done any of this without your mom. She is the glue that holds us all together." "I am glad you married her," Lily said seriously. "I know I was little when you met, but I do not really remember what it was like before. She has always felt like part of our family." "She is part of our family," Adrian said, "in every way that matters." Life settled into a beautiful chaos. Adrian advanced in his career, eventually becoming a senior project manager with Harrison Technologies' construction division. Olivia did end up shifting her focus, starting a nonprofit that helped single parents access childcare and job training resources. She poured her passion and her connections into it, and it thrived under her leadership. "You found your calling," Adrian told her, watching her work on a grant application one evening after the kids were in bed. "I found purpose," Olivia corrected. "I spent so long chasing success as defined by other people. This is success as defined by me. Helping people who are struggling the way you were struggling when we met, making a real difference." "I am so proud of you," Adrian said, meaning every word. "You inspire me every day." On their 5th wedding anniversary, they took a weekend trip alone, the first they had managed since Sophie was born. Adrian's parents took all 3 kids, promising to survive the chaos for 48 hours. They went back to the beach where they had honeymooned, staying in the same small inn. It felt full circle, a chance to reconnect as a couple outside the demands of parenthood. "Can you believe it has only been 5 years?" Olivia asked, walking hand in hand with Adrian along the shore. "It feels like we have lived an entire lifetime together." "A good lifetime," Adrian said. "The best years of my life." "Mine too," Olivia agreed. "I used to think success looked like corner offices and 6-figure salaries, but this, us, our family, that is real success. That is the thing I will be proudest of when I am old and looking back." Adrian stopped walking, pulling Olivia into his arms. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, and the sound of waves provided the perfect backdrop. "I love you, Olivia Grant," he said. "Thank you for seeing something in me that day on the sidewalk. Thank you for taking a chance on a stubborn single dad who did not know how to accept help. Thank you for loving my daughter like she was your own. Thank you for our babies, for our life, for everything." "I love you too," Olivia said, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Thank you for showing me what really matters. Thank you for teaching me that strength can look like asking for help, that love is built in the everyday moments, not grand gestures. Thank you for being my partner in every sense of the word." They kissed as the sun sank below the horizon. 2 people who had found each other against all odds and built something beautiful together. A year later, Olivia surprised Adrian with the news that she was pregnant again, this time with twins. Boys, the ultrasound revealed, and Adrian could not stop grinning for a week. 5 kids, he said, shaking his head in wonder. "We are going to need a bigger house." "Or we make this one work," Olivia said practically. The twins can share a room. We will figure it out. We always do. The twins, Thomas and Matthew, were born healthy and loud, and suddenly the Grant household went from busy to controlled chaos. Lily, now 13, was an indispensable help with her younger siblings. Ethan, at 4, was fascinated by the babies, always wanting to hold them and help. Sophie, at 2, was less impressed, more concerned about the fact that the babies took attention away from her. "It is a season," Olivia would say on the particularly hard days when Adrian felt like he was drowning in diapers and noise. "They will not be babies forever. One day we will miss this." She was right, of course. As the months passed and turned into years, the babies became toddlers, the toddlers became kids, and suddenly Adrian looked up and realized that Lily was preparing for college, that Ethan was playing Little League, that Sophie was in dance classes, that the twins were starting kindergarten. "Where did the time go?" he asked Olivia one evening. Both of them collapsed on the couch after getting all 5 kids to bed. "I have no idea," Olivia admitted, leaning against him. "But we did it. We raised them right, all of them. Look at our family, Adrian. Look at what we built." Adrian looked at the photos covering their walls, years of birthdays and holidays and ordinary moments. He saw Lily's graduation photos, Ethan's gap-toothed grin from losing his first tooth, Sophie's recital pictures, the twins covered in mud from playing outside. He saw Olivia in every photo, the center of their universe, the woman who had taken a chance on a struggling single father and changed his entire world. "I love our life," Adrian said simply. "Every chaotic, beautiful, exhausting moment of it." "Me too," Olivia said, kissing him softly. "I would not change a single thing." Lily went off to college to study veterinary medicine, making good on her childhood dream. She came home for holidays with stories about her classes and her friends, and she always made time to FaceTime with her younger siblings who adored their big sister. "You did good with her," Olivia told Adrian, watching Lily play with the twins during Christmas break. "She is such a good person." "We did good with her," Adrian corrected. "You have been her mother in every way that counts for almost 15 years now. You get credit too." "I love her like she is mine," Olivia said softly. "I hope she knows that." "She knows," Adrian assured her. "She told me once that having you come into our lives was like the universe apologizing for taking her mom away. That she got to have 2 mothers who loved her, which made her luckier than most people." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "That girl is going to make me cry." "Happy tears, though," Adrian said, pulling his wife close. "Always happy tears with our family." Years continued to pass, marked by milestones and ordinary moments alike. Ethan showed talent for music. Sophie became captain of her soccer team. The twins were inseparable and constantly getting into trouble together. Adrian got promoted to director of operations. Olivia's nonprofit expanded to 3 cities. And together, they navigated the challenges of raising 5 kids with grace and humor and lots of coffee. On their 15th anniversary, with Lily home from veterinary school and the younger kids old enough to mostly take care of themselves, Adrian and Olivia took a real vacation. 2 weeks in Italy, just the 2 of them, sleeping in and eating amazing food and remembering what it was like to be just a couple instead of parents. "We should do this more often," Olivia said, sipping wine at a small cafe in Rome. "Remember that we are not just mom and dad, but also Olivia and Adrian." "I never forget that," Adrian said, reaching across the table for her hand. "You are still the woman who stumbled with her groceries and changed my entire life. You are still the person I want to talk to at the end of every day. The kids are amazing, but you are the reason for all of it." "How did I get so lucky?" Olivia asked, her eyes shining. "To find you to build this life. Some days I still cannot believe it is real." "It is very real," Adrian said. "And it is ours. Every beautiful, messy, perfect piece of it." They came home refreshed and reconnected, ready to tackle the next phase of their lives. Lily graduated veterinary school and got a job at a prestigious animal hospital. Ethan got accepted into a music program. Sophie started talking about sports scholarships. The twins, now 10, were still inseparable and still trouble, but also sweet and smart, and everything Adrian and Olivia could have hoped for. "We did it," Olivia said one evening, both of them watching the kids play in the backyard with Pancake, who was old and slow now but still beloved. "We built a family, a real, solid, beautiful family." "Best thing I ever did," Adrian said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Besides catching those falling groceries all those years ago." Olivia laughed, turning in his arms to kiss him. "Best accident I ever had." "Not an accident," Adrian said seriously. "Fate, destiny, whatever you want to call it, we were always supposed to find each other." "I believe that," Olivia said. "I believe we were always meant to be right here with these kids in this life. I believe that sometimes the universe knows what we need before we do." As the sun set on another ordinary, extraordinary day, Adrian held his wife and watched their children and felt a contentment so deep, it was almost overwhelming. He had come so far from that struggling single father on a downtown sidewalk, catching a stranger's falling groceries. He had built a career, a family, a life rich in love and purpose. And it had all started with a torn paper bag and a woman who saw beyond his rough exterior to the man he could become, the man he was always meant to be. Together, they had created something lasting and real, a love story for the ages and a family that would carry their legacy forward. In the end, Adrian thought, that was what life was really about. Not wealth or status or any of the things society said mattered. It was about the people you loved, the family you built, the ordinary moments that added up to an extraordinary life. It was about catching someone when they fell and being willing to be caught in return. It was about partnership and patience and choosing love every single day. He had learned that lesson from Olivia, from their children, from the life they had built together. And he would spend the rest of his days grateful for a torn grocery bag and a chance encounter that changed everything.